Hi viewers, welcome to Deep Dive America. Today, we bring you one of the most shocking declassified programs in CIA history. The CIA's Psychic Spies, Declassified Secrets of Project Stargate. Imagine a world where the US government trained soldiers to read minds, see through walls, and even predict the future. Sounds like science fiction? Think again. For over 20 years, the CIA secretly poured millions into Project Stargate, a covert initiative to harness psychic abilities as weapons of war. They recruited top scientists, tested mysterious mental techniques, and even claimed remote viewers could locate hidden enemy bases, all with just their thoughts. But why did the Pentagon fund this? What did they actually discover? And most chillingly, why did they suddenly shut it all down? Strap in, because the documents we're about to reveal will challenge everything you thought you knew about the limits of the human mind. This is the untold story of the CIA's Psychic Spies. In the early 1970s, at the height of Cold War tensions, a series of extraordinary experiments at Stanford Research Institute would change the course of intelligence history forever. Israeli psychic Uri Geller, a man claiming supernatural abilities, was put to the test under rigorous laboratory conditions. Researchers sealed simple drawings, a star, a tree, a house, inside double-locked envelopes far from Geller's view. Yet, to the astonishment of scientists and observers alike, he repeatedly sketched near-perfect replicas of the hidden images. These weren't lucky guesses. The statistical odds against such accuracy were astronomical. When CIA analysts reviewed the footage and data, they faced an uncomfortable possibility. Either this was the most elaborate fraud in scientific history, or human perception might transcend physical limits. This disturbing revelation came at a time when US intelligence was already receiving alarming reports about Soviet psychic research. Classified memos warned that Russian scientists at Leningrad's Bekhterev Institute were allegedly making breakthroughs in biocommunication, a euphemism for mind-reading technology. The Pentagon panicked at the thought of losing what they termed the mental arms race. Thus, in 1972, Project Stargate was born, a top-secret initiative that would blur the lines between science and the supernatural. The program's architects faced an immediate dilemma. Should they recruit established psychics like Geller, who demonstrated uncanny abilities but lacked discipline, or train military personnel from scratch using standardized protocols? This philosophical divide created constant tension. On one side stood academic researchers insisting on strict laboratory controls and peer review. On the other, intelligence officers demanding battlefield-ready skills that could locate hostages or nuclear facilities. This clash of cultures, between the methodical pace of science and the urgent demands of espionage, would define Stargate's chaotic journey. From makeshift labs where scientists monitored brainwaves of agents attempting to Z across continents, to classified briefings where these same agents sketched Soviet military installations they'd never visited, the project careened between brilliance and absurdity. What began as a desperate Cold War gamble soon evolved into one of the most bizarre chapters in CIA history, one that would challenge fundamental assumptions about human potential and government secrecy. To truly grasp the significance of Project Stargate, we must first examine the revolutionary technique at its core: remote viewing. This controversial practice claimed to enable trained individuals to perceive and describe distant locations, hidden objects, or future events using nothing but the power of the human mind. What makes this story remarkable isn't just the extraordinary claims, but the shockingly methodical approach the military developed. Operatives reported entering a profound, altered state of consciousness where normal constraints of time and space appeared to dissolve. During these carefully controlled sessions, conducted in soundproof chambers at facilities like Fort Meade, viewers would follow a rigorous multi-stage protocol. A leaked 2004 training manual outlines the exact process. First, deep relaxation techniques to quiet the conscious mind. Second, intense concentration to establish mental contact with the target. Third, spontaneous visualization where images would flash unexpectedly into the viewer's awareness. And finally, detailed sketching of whatever impressions emerged. Participants consistently described seeing vivid, specific details: the layout of a foreign military base, the interior of a locked warehouse, even the faces of enemy operatives, despite having no prior knowledge or conventional means of observation. These sessions weren't casual experiments. They employed strict scientific controls, including blind testing, where neither viewer nor monitor knew the target, double-blind protocols to eliminate subconscious cues, and elaborate methods to prevent any possibility of fraud or educated guessing. The most startling aspect emerges from declassified mission reports. In multiple documented cases, remote viewers provided information that was later verified by satellite imagery or human intelligence to be remarkably accurate. One particularly striking example from 1983 describes a viewer who correctly identified the architectural features of a Soviet research facility down to the unusual hexagonal shape of its central courtyard, a detail that was later confirmed but had never been publicly documented. This level of precision forced even hardened skeptics within the intelligence community to reconsider their assumptions. The program's directors implemented a formal evaluation system where viewers' results were graded for accuracy, with some operatives consistently achieving statistically improbable success rates. While the phenomenon defied conventional scientific understanding, the military's own data suggested that, under carefully controlled conditions, human perception might indeed operate beyond currently recognized boundaries. This wasn't paranormal fantasy. It was a multi-million-dollar research program that produced tangible, if inexplicable, results that still challenge our understanding of human consciousness today. The true test of Project Stargate's validity came not in laboratory experiments, but in real-world intelligence operations where the stakes couldn't have been higher. Among the most well-documented cases occurred in 1980, when a remote viewer working at Fort Meade suddenly described a specific stretch of African wilderness. Dry riverbeds, distinctive rock formations, and the wreckage of what appeared to be a large aircraft. What made this remarkable was that the viewer had no prior knowledge of the missing Soviet Tu-22 bomber that had disappeared days earlier. When analysts compared the sketches to satellite photos of the suspected crash zone, they found matching terrain features within a 3-mile radius, ultimately leading recovery teams directly to the site. Even more astonishing were the 1983 Chinese facility viewings, where operatives correctly sketched the internal layouts of buildings that wouldn't be confirmed until years later by satellite reconnaissance, including the exact placement of security checkpoints and underground tunnel networks that no unclassified maps showed. But the program's most controversial success involved locating a lost Soviet submarine in the Pacific. While traditional intelligence methods failed, remote viewers consistently described the sub's position near an underwater trench system. When naval assets were deployed to the area, they detected unusual sonar signatures matching the descriptions. These weren't isolated incidents. Declassified after-action reports reveal that between 1978 and 1984 alone, Stargate operatives assisted in 197 missions, with a documented 32% accuracy rate for verifiable intelligence, far exceeding chance. The implications shook the intelligence community. Briefings reached the highest levels of the Pentagon and CIA, with one 1985 memo to the Secretary of Defense acknowledging that certain anomalous mental phenomena appear to provide actionable intelligence not obtainable through conventional means. Yet despite these successes, all information was immediately classified at the highest levels, with strict orders preventing dissemination beyond a handful of cleared officials. The program existed in a paradoxical state, simultaneously producing results that demanded attention while being considered too controversial to acknowledge. This tension between operational success and institutional skepticism would ultimately determine Stargate's fate, leaving behind unanswered questions about the true nature of human perception and the limits of intelligence gathering. As the 1980s drew to a close, Project Stargate began showing cracks that would ultimately lead to its demise. The once promising program that had delivered startling intelligence coups now faced an alarming decline in operational effectiveness. Veteran remote viewers who had previously produced remarkably accurate data suddenly reported increasingly vague and inconsistent visions. Internal memos from this period reveal a growing divide between the scientific and military factions within the program. Researchers pushed for stricter controls and more rigorous methodology, arguing that the phenomenon required careful academic study to understand its fluctuations. Meanwhile, Pentagon officials grew impatient, demanding immediate battlefield-ready results that could justify the program's substantial budget. This internal conflict created an atmosphere of distrust and dysfunction that further compromised operational success. The changing political landscape of the post-Cold War era accelerated Stargate's downfall. With the Soviet threat diminished, unconventional programs faced intense scrutiny from budget-conscious lawmakers. In 1995, under pressure from Congress, the CIA commissioned an independent review by the American Institutes for Research. Their evaluation, while acknowledging some statistically significant results, concluded that remote viewing had limited practical use in intelligence operations. The report's carefully worded bureaucratic language masked a devastating verdict. After 23 years and millions of dollars, Project Stargate was terminated. But the official story doesn't account for the persistent claims from program insiders. Several high-ranking officers, including a retired Air Force colonel, later came forward with a startling counter-narrative. They alleged that Stargate wasn't shut down because it failed, but precisely because certain aspects worked too well. According to these whistleblowers, the program had occasionally produced intelligence so precise and sensitive that it raised disturbing questions about potential misuse. Some even suggested that certain capabilities were transferred to classified black budget operations, though no concrete evidence has emerged to support this claim. What remains undeniable is that interest in these techniques never truly disappeared. Former Stargate personnel continued private research, while fragments of documentation surfaced through FOIA requests over the years. The program's legacy persists in ongoing debates about the nature of human consciousness and the limits of perception, questions that continue to challenge our understanding of reality itself. In 2017, a bombshell revelation from retired Colonel John Alexander sent shockwaves through the intelligence community. The former Stargate insider claimed the program wasn't shut down because it failed. It was terminated precisely because it worked too well, producing results so disruptive they had to be buried. This startling admission triggered a flood of new FOIA requests that have since uncovered hundreds of pages of previously classified documents. These files reveal an uncomfortable truth. While many tests showed mixed results, certain operational successes defied conventional explanation. Remote viewers allegedly pinpointed hidden military installations with accuracy that statistically shouldn't have been possible. This evidence forces us to confront a profound question that scientists still debate today. Did Stargate actually demonstrate that human consciousness can transcend physical limits? Or was this simply an elaborate case of Cold War paranoia, amplified by selective reporting? The declassified record proves one thing beyond doubt. This was no fringe experiment, but a serious military program that occasionally produced intelligence no conventional method could explain. As more whistleblowers come forward and researchers continue analyzing the data, one disturbing question lingers. If these capabilities were real, what might still be hidden in the classified archives? The implications could redefine our understanding of human potential. Thanks for joining us on Deep Dive America. We want to hear your take. Do you believe the full story of Stargate remains classified? Could psychic abilities have legitimate applications? Share your thoughts below, and if you found this investigation compelling, please like and share to help uncover more hidden truths. Remember, history's greatest discoveries often begin by questioning the impossible.